Okay, we're going to take a look at how you change margins in Word. There's a couple of ways to do it. The easy way is to go to the Page Layout tab. And when you go to the Page Layout tab, one of your choices here is Margins. And if you select one of these, it applies to the entire document. And right now you can see my margins are 1 inch on the top and the bottom and 1 1/4 inches on the left and the right. That's the old default for Office 2003. The default for Office 2010 is still the same on the top and the bottom, but on the left and the right it's 1 inch. So I'm going to change them. Notice before we do this that I've got 62 pages in my document here, and if I make the margins a little smaller I should lose a little bit of length in my document here, and now I'm down to 59 pages. So that made my document a little bit shorter. And now if I go here and let's take a look at some individual paragraphs. If you don't want to change the margins for the entire document, but you want to change the margins for part of it, say for an individual paragraph, there's a couple of choices for that one as well. You can go to your paragraph area here. I'm on the Page Layout tab. Go to the Paragraph group, and you can increase the value of the left margin here by whatever you want. And notice as you do that this left margin marker moves across. You can increase the value of the right margin here, and notice as you do that, this marker goes across. So those are your left and right margin markers. And probably the easiest way to do it is just to grab the marker, click on it, and drag it. I'm going to drag it, move it in 1/2 inch from where it was before. And this one is actually two parts. This top little symbol here that looks like home plate controls the first line. So as I move this, you'll see that the first line of the document changes, but the margins for all the other lines remain the same. So I can grab that and move it individually. I can also take this and move it individually. This is two parts, and if I drag the bottom part here, if I click on the little rectangle at the bottom, kind of looks like a house with a basement. If I click on the basement and drag it, it drags both this symbol and the first line indent symbol. But if I click a little bit higher here, click on the house part, not the basement part, and drag it back and forth, that will just control the left margin, and it will leave the first line indentation marker where it is. So let's increase on the left side by 1/2 inch, and we'll increase the first line by 1/2 inch as well, and we'll increase the margin over here on the right by 1/2 inch. And that's probably the easiest way to do it, is by dragging. You can mess with these if you want to, but probably the easiest way to do it is by dragging these margin markers back and forth. And if you want to do it from multiple lines, it's real easy to do it from multiple lines. All you have to do is select, multiple paragraphs. All you have to do is drag your mouse through all the paragraphs that you want to change. And we can, okay, that changed the left margin for all of them, and now I'm going to drag this back and forth, and it should change first line indent for all of them. And if I take this and move it, it should change the right margin for all of them as well. And you can do that for as much of your document as you want to. I'm going to go back to the default here, which was over to the edge. Whoops, I got to drag my mouse through everything that I want to change. So let's move this over, and now let's move them both over so they're back at the original left margin. And let's take this and move it over here. Did I move this one? No, I didn't. So I've got to move that one over there as well. Okay. The other way to do it is by using keyboard shortcuts. And let's go down here to this one that does not have a first line indent. And the keyboard shortcut to increase the left margin is Control M. So I'm going to type Control M, and every time you do it, I've done it 4 times now, it increases to the next default tab stop, which is 1/2 inch. If I want to undo it, instead of Control M, it's Control Shift M. And the way to remember that is M stands for margin. There's also a way to increase the indentation of everything except the first line, and that's Control T. It gives you a hanging indent. And every time I do that, it increases to the next tab stop, but it leaves that first line where it was. And if I do a Control-Shift-T, I go back in the other direction. So there's a number of ways to change your margins. If you want to change it for the whole document, go to the page layout and go to your margins tab. And by the way, you can go down here and you don't have to pick the defaults, although most of the time you probably will. You can go in here and you can set the margins to absolutely anything you want to set them to. And if you want to do it for individual paragraphs, probably select the paragraphs and going up here to the ruler and dragging the margin markers is probably the easiest way. And if all you want to do is a quick left indentation, use Control-M or Control-T.